Today is the last day of Pilate report, Tuesday, February 16. Joseph buried Jesus in his own tomb. Whether he contemplated his resurrection or calculated to cut him another, I cannot tell. The day after he was buried, one of the priests came to the praetorium and said they were apprehensive that his disciples intended to steal the body of Jesus and hide it, and then make it appear that he had risen from the dead, as he had foretold, and of which they were perfectly convinced. I sent him to the captain of the royal guard to tell him to take the Jewish soldiers, place as many of around the sepulchre as were needed. Then, if anything should happen, they could blame themselves and not the Romans. When the great excitement arose about the sepulchre being found empty, I felt the deepest solicitude that ever. I sent for this man Islam, who related to me as near as I can recollect the following circumstances. They saw a soft and beautiful light of the sepulchre. He at first thought that the woman had come to embalm the body of Jesus, as was their custom, but he could not see how they had gotten through the guard. While these thoughts were passing through his mind, behold, the whole place was lightened up, and there seemed to be a crowd of the dead in their grave clothes. All seemed to be shouting and filled with ecstasy, while around and above was the most beautiful music he had ever heard, and the whole air seemed to be full of voices praising God. At this time there seemed to be a reeling and swimming of the earth, that he seemed so sick and faint he could not stand on his feet. He said the earth seemed to swim from under him, and his sense left him, so he knew not just what did occur. I asked him what conditions he was in, and when he came to himself, he said he was lying on the ground with his face down. I asked him if his dizziness might not have come from being wakened up and getting up too suddenly, as it sometimes has that effect. He said he had not been asleep, as the penalty was death to sleep on duty. He said some of the soldiers slept at the time, and some was asleep. Then I asked him how long the scene lasted. He said he did not know, but he thought nearly an hour. I asked him if he went to the sepulchre after he had come to himself. He said no, because he was afraid that just as soon as relief came, they went to their quarters. I asked him if he had been questioned by the priest. He said he had. They wanted him to say it was an earthquake and that they were asleep, and offered him money if he would say the disciples came and sold Jesus, but he saw no disciples, and he did not know that the body was gone until he was told. I asked him what was the private opinion of the priest he had talked with. He said some of them thought that Joshua was no man, that he was not a human being, and not the son of Mary, and he was not the same that was said to be born of the Virgin in Bethlehem. It seemed to me that if the Jewish theory be true, these conclusions are correct, for they are in accord with this man's life, as if known and testified by both friends and foe, for the elements were in his hands, the same as the clay in the hands of the potter. He could convert the water to wine. He could change death into life. He could calm the sea, still the storms, cut off fish with silver coin in his mouth. Now I say, if he could do all of these things, which he did, and many more, as the Jews all testify, it was doing all of these things that created enmity against him. He was not charged with criminal offense, nor was he charged with violating any law, now of wronging an individual in person, and all of these facts are known to thousands as well as by his friend. I am almost ready to say, as did Marcus at the cross, truly this was the Son of God. Now, noble sovereign, this is as near the fact in the case as I can arrive at, and I have taken pains to make the statement very full, so that you may judge of my conduct upon the whole, as I hear that Antipater has said many hard things about me in this matter, with a promise of faithfulness and good wishes to my noble sovereign. I am your most obedient servant, Pontius Pilate.